Good morning and welcome to Peace Out, where we are all figuring out how to peace out together. I hope we are anyway. I think it's getting a little bit easier to go, okay, wait, this is happening. How can I peace out? How can I turn this over and just trust God? And it all comes down to that. It all comes down to it. It's all summed up in one thing that we're going to talk about in a minute. I hope you're having a good week. I hope you had a good week. I hope you have plans for the weekend. I don't, but I hope you'll have some good plans for the weekend. So I might have some plans. I'm not real sure. It's going to be all wintry again all of a sudden. Now, I remember in 19, would have been 69 or 70, I remember that it snowed a whole lot on Easter Sunday morning, because I remember I had, Mama liked to buy me those little patent leather shoes. Anybody ever have those? And I remember having to walk to the car in the snow in my brand new patent leather shoes. And I was so upset. And I had to wear a dress because it didn't matter to my mama. We wore a dress. Didn't matter if it snowed, if it was a blizzard, what it was. I had to wear that dress. I was all fixed up for Easter. She did really good about fixing us up for Easter. And I remember living here in Oklahoma City, actually, southwest 59th and Barnes, right just off of Penn and 59th Street, southwest 59th Street. I remember it snowing on Easter, so you never know what you're going to get in Oklahoma. My prayers go to those this week, as I've seen the news of the storms that have just brought destruction across a big part, just a big path across here. Prayers go to those who have lost loved ones and properties and things like that. You know, there's just parts of life that we may not ever understand, right? Yes, they were patent leather white shoes, absolutely, every year on it, because you had to have white for Easter, right? Alicia, did you have some of those too, Alicia? Anyway, so oh boy. Anyway, so I hope you have some good plans for this weekend, though. I hope you have plans to spend time with friends and family, because that's what matters, as we see things that, like, across Arkansas just got broken up there, northeast Oklahoma, even Arkansas, Missouri, up in that area has just seen some destruction, and man, this is just some crazy weather these days, right? That's just takes us back to trusting God no matter what. There's always something going on. There's always something going off, and God is always on watch, on patrol. He's watching over our hearts no matter what. So this morning, here's what I did. Here's what I was like. I'm looking at doing something with Proverbs, not right now because I'm working on Nehemiah, and I'm loving Nehemiah. I'm really enjoying studying Nehemiah, and I shared a second lesson in Pakistan yesterday, and I'm going to use it next week when I go to Nigeria too. But so I'm loving Nehemiah. So I'm not going to start anything else yet, but I've got some little ideas boiling about Proverbs in my brain. And once it starts boiling, then I'm going to have to go check it out. So what I did this morning is I did not read all of Proverbs, but I started in Proverbs, kind of glancing at each chapter, looking at for a theme, which is kind of hard to do in Proverbs because he's talking about wisdom, but each chapter kind of can have some varied things that kind of go together, kind of don't. So I thumbed through all of Proverbs, and I was just kind of looking at all the highlights, and talk so much about wisdom, because we know the beginning of wisdom is fearing God. And I don't mean fear as in, oh my goodness, he's going to smash us down to our toenails, or fry us, or bring his judgment on us. It's not that kind of fear. It's honoring God. And if we always honor God with every decision, we're going to end up walking in wisdom. If we honor God with every thought, if we bring our thoughts captive, as Paul says in 2 Corinthians, I believe it's 10, he says, bring our thoughts captive to what God already said. We're going to find that peace. We're going to find wisdom. It all comes down to just honoring God with our actions, with our thoughts, with our deeds, with everything, our work, everything we do. And so I was thumbing through Proverbs, and then Ecclesiastes. I just went right on over into Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and I thumbed through Ecclesiastes, and in chapter 3 it talks about there's a season for everything. And I don't really like that passage. We usually use it at funerals to try to justify our emotions and try to get our emotions back in order, because there's a season for life and a season for death. And this is true, right? There's good seasons and bad seasons. There's time for love, and there's time to hate things, not people. There's times to, all these things. I come through all these, and I come down to the last couple of verses in Ecclesiastes, and Solomon says, let's hear the conclusion of all of this. And I was like, why didn't you just start with that? I could have skipped all that reading, right? He said, here's the conclusion of finding wisdom, of understanding the times, of understanding our behaviors, of listening to God, of fearing God, of obeying God and honoring his word. It all comes down to this. This is the conclusion. Fear God, keep his commandments, for this is man's all. Everything's summed up in that. Just fear God and keep his word. Walk in the righteousness that he clothed us in. And I was like, why didn't he start with that? He could have just said that and wouldn't even have to write all these books, right? The whole 2 books of that. He could have just said it like that, put it on a plaque on the wall. There you go. It's all summed up in this. Fear God and keep his word. Honor God, honor his word. Keep what he said, right? And so then I thought, you know what? Jesus did something like that, right? Jesus said, because we're not talking about going back and pulling out the old law and writing it all out and following the every little dot and little I dotted and T crossed and make sure you don't get it all. We're not talking about something super spiritual. We're just talking about honoring God with everything and following what his purpose is, right? And so then I thought, you know what? Jesus kind of summed up everything too, because the scribes came to him and said, which is the greatest commandment in the law? The scribe, the Pharisees, they knew that one wasn't better than the other. They knew that they weren't ranked in God's mind, maybe in their mind. Yeah, and can I say this real quick? Oh, side trip, sorry. Sometimes we rank sin. We have some sins. It's not so bad to cheat on your taxes because you got it coming anyway, but that's still not following the truth, right? So, but it might be bad. It's worse to have adultery, commit adultery. It's worse to maybe the church likes to really rank those sins. We cheat on the taxes, but that's okay. But cheating on our wives or husbands that's not okay. But cheating is cheating. And if we break one law, we are a transgressor, right? Well, if we break one law, we've broken the law, the whole law. And so it's not, we really can't rank sins. And in the same way, we really can't rank the laws either. Which one's better than the other? Which one's more important? Isn't it important that we just follow all of them from our heart, right? That's what he just said in what we just read in Ecclesiastes. Honor the law, follow God's commands. So the scribes and Pharisees come and say, which commandment's the greatest one in the law? Which one's the greatest? Because they probably had their pick of what they thought Jesus was going to say. But Jesus said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, all your mind. This is the first and great commandment. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments hang all the law and the prophets. In other words, if we just like Solomon came to the conclusion and said, you know what, we can sum all this up. Love God, love his word, take care of people. Isn't that simple? And did you know that that's actually, if we want to give it a formula, that's kind of just a formula to having peace too, because if we have peace with God, it's going to be lots easier to have peace with people. If we don't have peace with God, we're not going to have peace with people. We're going to be arguing. We're going to be complaining. We're going to be trying to put them down. We'll be lifted up in pride. We'll be trying to put them down and make us feel better. I want to feel better than you. I'm better because, we'll be measuring and comparing. But when we have peace with God, we're going to love people because God is love. When we have peace with God, it's going to be easier to have peace with people. I will say this, just personal. It's harder to have peace with people these days because people have messed up. That's why we got to shift our focus back to the primary thing. Jesus said the first thing is to love God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, even your mind, he says, with all your heart, your soul, and your mind. Really? That's everything that makes us a person. If we love God first, loving people becomes easier because people are made in God's image, whether they walk up to that potential that he put in them or not, whether they decide to walk with him or not, they're still made in his image. And when we love God first and we love everything about God, it makes it much easier to love people and to put up with people, right? And then we're going to love people just like we love ourselves. What do we want to do? Sorry. So it all is all summed up. Love God, honor God. Don't do anything against what the principles that he teaches in this word. And we're going to be okay with God. We're going to be okay with people. And that's where we're going to have peace. Because when we get along with people, we have peace one way or the other, right? And when we get along with God, we have peace everywhere. Because it goes on to say in the next verse here, it says that God, in the last verse of Ecclesiastes, says this, for God will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether good or evil. God knows our hearts. He even knows if we love him with all of our hearts, souls, and minds and strength. He knows. And he can make that judgment not in a condemning way, but he can go, yeah, you're telling the truth on this, but you're not telling the truth on this. He knows. And he can expose that inside. If we go to him and go, show me where I'm not following you. You know, he'll do that. Show me where I'm lacking, where I'm not trusting you. And he will show us that. He is so intimately acquainted with our ways, with us. He watched us form in the womb, but he knew us before we formed in the womb. He couldn't wait till we got to time. He couldn't wait to spend time with us. He's not up there with a ball bat wanting to smack us. He just wants to spend time with us. We're just going to love him first and love people second because we love God. Then we're going to have that peace in our hearts all the way around, right? And we'll go back to the principal thing. Fear God, love his word, and we'll be okay with that. That's going to give us peace on every single level. That's why we can peace out. Peace out, you guys. Have a great weekend. I'll see you bright and early Monday morning.